Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Bryson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throwing as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver. You're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
Shady Sports, I'm back here with you on Saturday morning for a very exciting episode of the Around the Indoor World. I'm filling in for my boy Sam today. He's out enjoying life. But TJ, how you doing this morning, man?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. So, before we get into it, I kind of want to congratulate you on your new position with the AF1. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about what you got going on?
Thanks, man. I'm working with the AF1 tracking stats. They have stat trackers in each arena live for the games, and I'm just basically going to be a second check. I'm going to watch the games from my nice comfy couch and just get to track the stats and just again double check, make sure the accuracy is there, and making sure everyone gets what they're supposed to get.
No, that's a really important role. There's a couple players out there that are a couple yards short of milestones, and they probably hit them already. So I think that's good for you, to do that. So I want to congratulate you for that opportunity. I think our first lead that we're going to talk about today, the NAL, we want to start off with the Carolina Cobras. So multiple sources, and they put this out there too, that they had a dispersal draft, right? So 8 days after the team folded, they had a dispersal draft. And I just want to talk to you about that, So Omaha, we'll start with who you got, and then we'll talk about who you let go of. But you got James Summers. How excited are you to finally get a player of that caliber to come to Omaha?
I think it's just proof that, they understand that they're not playing up to par, and, they, bring in guys, it doesn't necessarily mean that the guys on the roster that are now gone weren't good. It was just, in the world of competitive sports, man, it's always, can we, quote unquote, level up in that position, get better? And they saw the opportunity, so they took it. As did all the teams, taking former Cobra players. And, it's just really great to see that those players get a second chance, even though their initial shot with Carolina obviously ended a little sour.
I mean, among the big names, we had Gibson Zaya go to Columbus. We know that pass rush is completely stacked already, so to get him, that's a huge move for them. Tavern Fitzgerald, he went to Sioux City. And then we have Josh Fields also going to Omaha. Another move Omaha made, and I think it's a huge decision by my boy Coach Negron, is to go ahead and cut Jeff Mack and Troy Evans. Talk about losing those two players.
I mean, they've been around for a while, so I was kind of shocked to see that. But hey, Coach Negron, I'm definitely not gonna second guess him, man. He knows what he's doing, and if he let him go, they're guaranteed who we brought in or who we have other than them already on the roster have the ability to step up and take over. So definitely a little shocking. Definitely end of an era, kind of culture change feel. But hey, man, I'm all for it, man. In Coach Negron and the Omaha Beef I trust.
I'm a huge supporter of Coach McGraw. I've known him for a while. I think, those are two big moves, right? And I think he's setting the tone, like he's willing to take a risk. The first big move for me was when he cut Josh Batiste and brought in David Ross, because he might think David Ross is better than Josh Batiste because David Ross is more versatile. And so I think Negron is kind of fitting this theme where he wants guys who are versatile versus one-dimensional guys. And I think he might view, Jeff Mack is an amazing running back. Nobody's going to argue. I think Jeff Mack is a better running back than James Summers is overall. But Jeff Mack can't play receiver. You know what I mean? Like James Summers can play receiver at a high level. So you get a guy who can do one really like good thing and then one really elite thing. So I think it's balances out. So, I'm happy for that move. Other movement I want to talk about is, Colorado Spartans. We'll talk about the games a little later, but they lost defensive coordinator and AFL Philadelphia Soul legend, James Romaine. He had a ton of comments to say. We won't really get into that, but talk about the big departure of him leaving.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's definitely a legend in the game. I used to watch Philadelphia Soul, back in the day. So it was kind of a shock to me, and as you said, clearly things definitely weren't of mutual partings, given some of the social media activity, But yeah, it definitely makes me wonder, what led to the decision and, kind of what went on behind the scenes. Would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that. That's for sure. But I'm sure he'll definitely get picked up, somewhere else, because he's an all arena Hall of Fame type guy. So there's no way, in my opinion, he stays in the coaching free agent market for long.
I had a bet with two different people. I said James Romaine won't last the whole season in Colorado. I had it on like under 2 weeks because I knew him and Fred Shaw are really emotional and it wouldn't work out. Because as soon as things go south, it like, nah. But I want to point out this is Fred Shaw's third assistant coach that has left him midseason. Last year with Tay Brooks, the year before with Coach Tay Ivory. So 3, to me, that says he's not capable of working with another assistant coach, and that's fine. Some coaches want to run their program their own way, and right now they're 3-2. I think it's working. I can't really assess Colorado till we talk about tonight's game and we really see where they're at. So why don't we segue and talk about tonight's game? Wheeling Miners travel up to Denver, Colorado, long trip. They played each other week 1. It was a thriller, 49-46, Colorado. Obviously, this Colorado team is very different from a line perspective, quarterback perspective, than last time they faced Wheeling. Who do you got winning this game? What's your final score predictions and overall thoughts?
Wheeling's been on a little bit of a run as of late, so I'm going with them, man. I think it's going to be another close kind of nail-biting game, but I think Wheeling's going to pull it out in the end this time. It's, unlike the last time. Letting go of Romaine, I don't think it's going to be night and day difference, but I think you're definitely going to see a little bit of a difference in the defense. So I'm going to go with Wheeling in a close one. I think they're on a little bit of a win streak and they're getting themselves right back into the playoff race. So I'm going to go with Wheeling 45, Colorado 38.
That's interesting. I got a ton of boys on Wheeling. Our boy CJ Kane. I'm excited for him tonight. But I even told him I like Colorado. I'm a Wheeling fan, but I like Colorado to come out and win this game. I think this team is playing at an all-time high level. I know they make mistakes, but that's expected in a Colorado team. They're young, they're hungry. They got ball players. That linebacker, Size Candy. He might be defensive rookie of the year. They got Isaiah Hall. They got ballers all around the field, and then on the offensive side, Nubo, Dent, Rosario. It's going to come down to who starts at quarterback for Colorado because I think, Khalil Chapman, I think he's done a good job. Khalil Chapman, he's from your neck of the woods. But I think he's done a good good job. But I think Andre Sale, man, like he's a vet and he understands this game. And if he plays tonight, I like Colorado. And even if Khalil Chapman plays, I still like Colorado, but I think it'll be a lot closer. Like, let me rephrase. I think if Khalil Chapman wins, I think Wheeling has a 70% chance of winning. And that's nothing against Khalil. It's just the way, like, Wheeling is already used to facing Khalil Chapman. You know, they faced him twice last year when Jersey played Wheeling. And then Andre Sale had never faced Wheeling. So I think, you know, it's a wild card for them. And he hasn't played a lot, so there's not a lot of film, like NAL film. I'm sure that obviously IFL film and stuff. But I like Colorado to win this game. I think it's going to be a really back and forth game. It's going to come down to whoever had the ball first, not last. You know what I mean? Like, if you have the ball first, meaning you'll have the ball last. So I think I like Colorado. I think they win this game. I'm going to say 40-35. It's going to be a fun showdown. The next game I want to talk about is the Shreveport Rougarou. Finally, Beaumont has a home game. You know, it's been an eternity since they played. They played some away games. Finally, they have a home game against Shreveport. Shreveport finally gets to play again against a real team. All the drama is aside with them, hopefully. But let's talk about this game. What do you think about Shreveport and Beaumont tonight? Oh, I think you're on mute. Oh, yeah. Hold on 1 second. Oh, there we go.
Back.
Yeah, you're back now. You're good.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, you know, I'm happy that Shreveport's finally getting a home game, but you know, you got to go. I got to go with Beaumont for this one. You know, they've been playing really tough. Obviously, you know, they've been knocking down all the big dogs in the league, so I'm going to go with them. Probably, I'd say 49-35. I'll roll with them winning that one. I think Shreveport's going to come out for their home game, put up a good fight, but I think Beaumont's just going to be able to pull away, you know, in the end.
I want to use this point to think about like how Carl Robinson for Beaumont can create a little separation with Grant Russell tonight, you know, playing a weaker Shreveport defense, because I think for me, I look at him and I say he's in the MVP race. I think that MVP is two-man. You know, we know they're not going to give it to a defensive player, right? We know that. We know how that works in professional football. They're not going to give MVP to a defensive player. So it's going to be either Carl Robinson or Grant Russell, right? And for me, I think he can create separation because of it. Wheeling is going to be in a running threat tonight. I expect Fred Hargrove and Charles Westbrook to get probably 25 carries between the two of them. I would not be surprised if Wheeling tries to run the ball and, you know, play the clock and do what they do. Because, you know, I mean, they're getting back in tempo. Again, long trip, coming in, start slow. I think that's how the game is headed. So when I look at, like, what Wheeling is trying to do and then what Beaumont's trying to do, Beaumont's trying to put up points tonight, right? Shreveport, the last time we saw their defense, they gave up 50 points to an Idaho team, right? Giovanni Sanders threw 6 touchdowns versus Shreveport. He's thrown 5 touchdowns in the rest of the 5 games. So for me, that's a sign of, okay, they're willing to make that adjustment on the defense. Like, if you look at their defense on paper right now, out of last game, they had 8 starters on defense, right? Out of 8 starters, they have 6 new starters on defense, right? Dennis Antoine is the only one that returns. Dennis Antoine and one of the other DBs is the only one that stays. So that, to me, like, they're playing with a new defense. 4 out of those 7 new starters are rookies. It's going to take time for them to adjust. Beaumont's O-line is one of the best in the league. I would say, I don't mind saying that Beaumont has the best O-line in the league, right? Beaumont is insane up front. They're really good. D-line and O-line are at a high level. So I like Beaumont to win this game. I think it's going to be a 3-score game. I think it's going to be I'll say 49. I'll say 49-21. I think it's gonna be fun game to watch. We'll talk about the last game because I know people want to speculate. Dallas Falcons at Omaha Beef. We'll just go to you. I know you're a huge Beef fan. I'll ask you this. What are you looking for? Like, what are you hoping to see tonight out of the offense?
I mean, not to disrespect Dallas, but it's a lower level out of league opponent. So I'm looking for the team to basically put the stomp down on them. I'm looking for the offense to basically like a knife through melted butter kind of thing. They should not have an issue for the most part at all tonight. I know they had their obviously what kind of kick started this whole kind of up and down start to the season, the change obviously at head coach, the preseason out of league opponent game that they lost on the final play. So, you want to show that things are 100% different and things are 100% better. You got to go out in the same situation, especially now that it's a regular season game, and you got to put the stomp down on them. Offense should put up at least probably 50 points tonight. If they don't drop at least a 50 burger, you are not going into that locker room post game happy. Because you're still thinking your offense is struggling. So defense has been playing shutdown for the most part. I see them probably not giving up. I would say they should not give up more than the low to mid 20s tops. And so it should be a fairly one-sided game. I'm going to go Beef 55, Dallas 21.
I think obviously it's going to come down to who Dallas starts at quarterback. They start Jamal Stanfield. I think it might be a little closer, but honestly, like Tyrone runs a great program in Dallas. Like no shade to him, but his team is never ready to compete against the professional competition. So I think they're going to get to show it tonight. I think my boy, my member Josh Hollins, he's probably going to get some reps at quarterback for Omaha. He's the best quarterback up in Omaha right now. I'll stand by that. But I think he's going to have a great night. I think the offense is going to have a great night. I got 60. I think Negron's going to try to put up 60 on the board. I could see Coach Negron trying to run up the score. You know what I mean? I think no mercy, right, to prove a point. Like, okay, this is my offense. It works. So 60 points. They're going to feed David Ross. They are going to feed David Ross tonight. Mark this. He's going to get over 8 touches tonight. Over 8, right? Receiving and passing. Over 8 touches. Mark that. But they're going to win this game 65 to, I would say, 18. So it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a fun blowout. But I think my last point that I want to touch on before we move on to the IFL is the standings currently. So, we know Wheeling, Columbus, they're kind of neck and neck right now for that second seed. We know Colorado and Sioux City are neck and neck. What do you feel right now? If you had to say, I know it's early, but who are your playoff predictions? We don't have to go championship. Who are your 4 teams that make the playoffs, would you say, right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, on the national side, I think, obviously I'm going with Omaha, a little bit of a homer call, but, I'm going to go with Omaha, and I think Colorado is going to maintain, they have, in theory, a game and a half lead over Idaho right now. Sioux City, at 2 and 3. I just feel like they're a little bit out of it. Idaho, what really hurts them is their division standing. They're 0 and 3 right now. So I think that's going to give Colorado, again, the edge with already a game lead in the standings. So on the national side, I'm going to say Omaha and Colorado. On the American side, Beaumont, they're looking like the clear-cut winner. Like I said before, where we both said before, they've been taking down all the big dogs. So it's definitely not, their record is not a mirage, in my opinion. They are legit. And, honestly, I see Columbus coming back and jumping Shreveport in the American standings. So I see Beaumont and Columbus representing in the American side.
Okay, so I look at it two ways. Wheeling Miners, their next 5 games, they have a gauntlet of a schedule. They have to play Colorado tonight. They have to come home and play Beaumont. Then they play Sioux City, and then they have to play Columbus twice. Those are really tough 5 games. And in order for them to make the playoffs, obviously they'll have to beat Columbus hypothetically twice. They could beat them once. I would say they have to go 4-1 for their next 5, hypothetically, right? Let's just say 4-1. So I like Beaumont. I think Beaumont only needs to win 2 of the next 4 to clinch the number 1 seed in the American. But if they win 1 of the next 4, they still will make the playoffs either way. So Beaumont is a lock right now. Beaumont's a lock to go to the American Championship. The 2nd seed is a little up for grabs. I want to pick Wheeling. I really do. And I think Columbus, Espinoza played great, but I wonder if Espinoza can have that same success against Wheeling and like higher level defenses. I know I said Colorado with a high level defense, but you got to think Fred Shaw was out the second half of that game, right? He got thrown out of the game. So they had like an equipment manager from off the street calling the plays. So I don't know how much that changed, but nothing taken away from Espinoza. He played a great game. He looked like an elite passer out there. So I got Beaumont and I got Wheeling right now. I'm a little biased. And then on the national side, I got Omaha and Sioux City. Omaha and Sioux City. I think Sioux City's they're going to find a way to kind of bounce back. But I hope it's Colorado. I really want Colorado to make it. I think that would be really good for the league. A Negron and Shaw final. Before we go to AF1, we had a question. And it said, did they ever produce a list of players selected in this special draft? Oh, of course not. You think they got time to put out a list, man? They can't even update Twitter. So no. And then David Ross.
They did. I know if you go to the individual team pages, I know they were announcing all the signings, so you can potentially figure it out that way if you were looking for a specific player for anyone watching. Right.
There was something mentioned on. I got to give credit where I heard it was on the Prime Cut podcast. He was saying like that Shreveport had the 2nd pick. And Omaha traded up with Shreveport. Whoever like made the decision to trade up for Omaha absolutely fleeced Shreveport. Like that is going to go down as one of the biggest moves in the NAL season, to be able to jump up that far and trade for James Summers. Like Shreveport, I mean, I don't even know like how that what allowed that to happen, but whoever made that move for Omaha, whether it was Ricky Burks, Coach McGrone, like that's a power move to be able to make that move and trade up. So David Ross to beat. I agree. I like David. I think he's a good player. I think he's he was all conference tight end in college. So they're trying to use him like a blocking tight end, and I think it's gonna work out well for them down the stretch. We'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll go to the AF1. Just give me 1 second. Okay.
I'm just being myself, cool as can be. When I'm being myself, you wish you were me.
It's so easy. Get out your own way.
we're now going to go and talk about the 2A league, the AF1, your new employer. But I want to start off by saying, like, let's talk about Corpus, man. We got to talk about what's going on in Corpus, all the craziness. Like, do they finish the season? Do they not? I want to hear your thoughts about it first.
I think by them releasing all these players, whether they did it under their own incognizance or they were forced to by the league, it's obvious it's a way to minimize expenses. So I think this is their way of trying to or having to accept that basically they cannot afford the roster that they put together. So they're going with more inexpensive players. That way they can try to at least finish out the season. And, either way, I mean, before, if there even is a next season for Corpus Christi, whether it's, in the AF1, NAL, uh, AIF, anything, they have to really sit down as an ownership group and either bring somebody else in or take a good hard look in the mirror and really stick to a financial game plan. Again, if the team, continues to exist, because obviously, this season's been a nightmare, and again, it's the classic mindset of it's not just bad for Corpus Christi, it's bad for the AF1 and it's bad for all the other teams in the league, because anyone with them on their schedule right now is looking saying, are we going to play them in, 2-3 weeks? And everyone's looking and saying, oh yeah, the AF1, possibly, another team's up in the air now, even though it's not their fault that the ownership overspent on their roster. So it's just hopefully they're able to at least finish out this season and then, game plan and hopefully reassemble and come back stronger and better than ever next year. But I'm thinking that they will try to finish out this season just to minimize the negative effects and the damage that they've caused on not just themselves, but also the AF1 brand as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You hit the nail on the head. Like, it sucks, right, for the F1. I think, like, the worst part about the whole thing is it was a talented team, right? You had a 3-0 team, and it sucks when it happened. But, like, you look at two teams that folded, Carolina, Corpus. I mean, Carolina wasn't gonna make the playoffs anyway, so at least you have that. But it still sucks. I'm not saying it doesn't, but Corpus was gonna make the playoffs, and they were gonna be dominant. And so that team was amazing. J.A. Anderson he was coach of the year candidate. Now he's not. But I just think, the guys who they bring in are going to be low budget guys. I mean, they might be able to find a couple diamonds. Who knows if they're paying the minimum $400, right? Who knows, right? Do we really know? Are they really going out and spending that type of money on players? Right? Or are they just kind of paying the 1-200 AIF wages just to stay afloat? Right? So there's a lot of questions to be asked. I think they'll make it through the season, but it'll be another one of those, Dallas Falcon, Philadelphia Soul, like, embarrassing situations where you just have a bunch of semi-pro guys filling in and they won't be competitive. And so it's just sad to see that. But I think it's a complete failure, with Hector Garcia, Kevin Cecil, and the rest of the crew. I mean, I know Kevin is still, he's still my guy, but, like, it sucks. Hector Garcia, I think this is the second time he's been involved in a team not working out. San Antonio was the first time, and now it's here. So it really sucks all around. But I think, more positive news is for your Billings Outlaw. You guys, apparently you're a Billings Outlaw fan. I found this out, like, about a week ago. But I think you guys loaded up. You got Darius Prince, Dwayne Hollis. The only thing you're going to address is the quarterback situation. How do you feel about all this movement?
I mean, it kind of had to be done after, the last couple weeks, the back-to-back, just especially on the offensive side, embarrassments against Albany. And then, last week, again, losing in the last, possession or two. Really, the main the main, I'll say, blaring, first look are, the 2 red zone INTs that were thrown, both costing Billings points. And, you look at the final score, it was a 1-score game. That's the difference right there. So I am surprised that they really didn't address that. They are sticking with their current quarterback, depth chart. But I mean, Darius Prince, you want a guy who can take the top off of defense. You got it, man. So I do like that they did address that, and again, it's kind of them looking in the mirror and saying, if we want to get back to where we were last year, look at this being Billings, we beat them in the championship game. And now this year they boat raced us back-to-back weeks, one of them being at our place where we only put up single-digit points on offense. So something definitely had to be addressed. If there is, for at least Billings fans anyway, if there is a silver lining to the Corpus Christi debacle, this is it. Because, they were able to get an instant upgrade on the roster because of that happening. But I'll be interested to see how quickly, they come together, they get acclimated, and they start playing. I would not be surprised if early on, you see a couple, by mistakes, I'll say, interceptions because, they're trying to get the ball to Prince and stuff like that. It's going to take, probably a week or two to really start to be able to feel each other out and stuff. But I do see it as an instant upgrade. I'm not sure. I haven't been on social media the past, like 24 hours or so. So I'm not sure. I'd assume they're going to start Prince right off the bat tonight, but we'll see.
Yeah, they made an announcement on
how
the
many
air.
touches he's going to get.
Yeah, they made an announcement on the F1 site who will be starting with Dwayne Hollis and Terrence Ames. So it'll be good to have all 3 of them in the lineup. But let's start with the game predictions. Billings at Southwest Kansas. We know a good Southwest Kansas fan out here. But how excited are you for this game, and who do you got winning? I mean, I know you didn't say Billings, but what's the score, let's say?
Yeah, man, in my opinion, it's going to be a really good game. They're 2 teams that kind of mirror each other because they are very good teams, but they just keep, knocking themselves down. They keep, unforced errors, last second scores. Obviously, that the ending of that game basically went viral with Southwest Kansas and I believe it was Washington, the Hail Mary game. So, they're 2 teams that honestly probably could and should have better records than what they have right now. But I see it going down to the wire. Speaking of that Hail Mary game, I kind of see a similar type of ending, a last second score by Billings. I'm going to say it's going to be Billings 45, Southwest Kansas 41.
I do want to touch on this. I know Coach Thomas, he's one of my guys, but he's 3-10 in 1-score games over the last 2 years. And I'm not saying that's his fault. It's obviously a collective group. Football is a team game at the end of the day. But this is a big opportunity for him to come out the gate, swing, and prove they're one of the top teams. Because if they lose tonight, they're just average. Let's just be real. Like, they almost lost to Salina. If Salina had a quarterback, they would have won by, probably 15. So, Southwest, for me, it's crazy because you had bye weeks. You had weeks off to address the one issue you have on your team. It's glaring. The whole industry knows what the issue is. The center, right? I don't know how they keep rolling out with the same center week after week after week. That dude, I'm not taking a shot at that dude or whatever. I know he, had other opportunities. Man, let him go. Let him go to Mexico. Let him go to, some third world country and learn how to play football because it's terrible and it's embarrassing for the whole Dodge City community to watch that kid play week after week. He doesn't know how to play indoor ball. He gets killed at the line of scrimmage every single play. So for me, it's crazy. Like, I feel bad for Jalen. That's my boy. And to watch him, his life is at danger. And like, his life is in danger every time he steps out on the field. So I hope the best for Southwest. I'm a Southwest fan too, even though sometimes I don't seem like I am. I'm a dedicated Southwest fan. So, but no, I like Billings, honestly. And it's gonna come down to, another fumble at the goal line. And it's just, it's going to be. So I think Billings is going to win this game 27-25. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think Jalen Morton is going to have a good game, running the football. I want to see him run a little bit more. But yeah, it's going to be fun. But I think, yeah, let's go to the next game on the docket. Salina, Liberty, Coach O. Coach O was number 2 in my head coaching rankings. I dropped before the season. Coach Ware with number 3. I thought about switching them now for my end of season coach rankings, but I think this is going to tell me if I put them at the right spot. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Coach Ware versus Coach O, Albany versus Salina. Who do you got winning and what's the score?
I mean, obviously, I'm going with Albany. They are, going into this weekend, at least, head and shoulders above every other team, in my opinion, in the league. They took that championship loss last year, and they came back possibly with the best team they've ever had. It's actually kind of scary. But I see Albany. I don't want to say dog walking, but I definitely see him winning by at least probably 2 to 3 scores. Salina, they're showing signs, but I don't think they're at Albany's level yet. So I see Albany winning, probably dropping. I'd say safely dropping probably 50. I'd say 50, Albany 52, Salina 28, 35 maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with you on this. I think Salina is a really good team. I think they figured out a way to win. I think Coach O, it's admirable to me. He hasn't hit the panic button. I think a lot of coaches, when they're 0-4, would have freaked out. And, you watch his show, he's always even kill. I think he understands, there's still an opportunity, right? 6 out of 8 teams make the playoffs. We see what Oregon and Washington put on the field every other week. So, there's still an opportunity. And Corpus, obviously, now with the whole situation. So, Salina right there in the mix. But unfortunately, I think Albany's going to win this game 50-24. I think it's going to be, again, it's just winning the possession battle. Like you said, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We have a couple questions. We'll get to those towards the end of our AF1 segment. Let's go to the final game of the weekend. We'll talk about the Oregon Lightning traveling to Washington. Obviously, Oregon at this point, I believe they're 1-4. It's been a tough ride for the Oregon team up to this point. Washington is 2-4. So what do you think about this game? What do you think about the quarterback play specifically from last week? And what do you think Oregon can do to kind of close the gap?
I mean, Oregon, it just seems, unfortunately, like they just keep struggling. In parts of games, it seems like they start to get stuff together, but then, something just seems to unravel. I just don't think that they're quite there yet, in terms of obviously a playoff team. Is there, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 games that could have gone a different way, but then it just kind of snowballed against them. Washington, I just feel like they're a little bit closer. On paper, their roster is just a little bit better formed. They're playing and they've been playing, better in my opinion since game 1 to now. So I see it being somewhat of a close game. I saw somebody on social media earlier in the week, called it called it like the Blunder Bowl because, both teams can't seem to get out of their own way at times. But I see Washington winning it probably, I'll say Washington wins it 42-31. It'll be a little bit lower scoring of an arena game, but I think Washington's just going to capitalize on a miscue or 2 by Oregon, and Oregon's going to have trouble catching back up.
I think a thing that goes under the radar is Richie Anderson. He's released no longer with the Oregon Lightning. I think that was a mutual decision. I won't really speak on that, but I think Richie, he's one of the most productive slot receivers in the AF1, number 2 receiver for the Oregon Lightning. So losing him is huge. I don't know what they're gonna do at that. I know they saw my boy Phil Harden to fill that role, but I think if Maurice Ashley, it's gonna be Maurice, Chris Lewis. They really got to figure out how to spread the ball out more. They don't do a good job at that at all. They did a good job early on against Billings. I thought they did a good job spreading the ball out around the field. Dalton Cole, I think Dalton Cole has played a good season, but he has no time. The line is terrible, right? They don't have time to throw the football. On the defensive side, they got DBs, tapping out mid-play. It's the effort that I question the effort, because you see teams who are 0-5, or 1-5, 0-4, like they're fighting. These Oregon, some of the players they got, they tap out mid-play. Like you can just tell. I know my boy Darren, he's almost fully healed, so I'm hoping he'll come back next week. But that would be big to get him back in the secondary. But I think I like Oregon to win this game, though. I think Washington doesn't have a quarterback. And that's another thing. Like, how can they move forward with Adam Cruz? Like, how? Like, how do they think that's going to work? Like, that's just crazy to me. I know he had a good game, but he's not the quarterback there. Like, and that's no disrespect to him. He hadn't played this game long enough. You need an arena-style quarterback to win against Billings and Salina. I hope Coach Wells knows that he can't move forward with Adam Cruz at quarterback or Rodney Raines. They need to bring in a new quarterback who can make good decisions from the pocket. Oregon's going to win this game 42 to 38. And then we got a couple questions or points here. So I'm going to start with this. Do you think James Summers would have gone to Shreveport if he was drafted? What do you think, TJ?
Yeah, I think he would have honored the draft selection.
I agree. Same answer. Like, I think James Summers is a seasoned professional. And I don't. James Summers, I think he's the type of guy he'd go with the flow. So if he got drafted there, I think he would go and he would give his full effort and he would do whatever they asked him to. So he's that type of guy. This is a really good question. Do you guys believe cutting payroll played a part in the ownership change?
It's hard to tell if it was the ownership change or just the overall realization when, they stepped in and saw, again, what the payroll expenses were from week to week. And then on top of that, especially what they still, probably owe some, if not all the players as well. So I think that's a toss-up. But either way, it's not a great situation.
Well, we've been watching arena indoor football long enough to know, like, when the ownership change happens, normally the old ownership group is not transparent about how much they owe. So they probably just lied and said, like, a certain amount, and then they showed them the books when it was too late. So essentially, I think that's probably what happened. And then we have the whole, like, sideline apparel and all the drama in Corpus. But, yeah, I think, new ownership, like, if you're not assuming new ownership and not a fan of arena, you know what I mean? Like knowing, like assuming they don't know all the details, they're not gonna go want to spend, $3,000 for a single player, which I don't blame them. Mm-hmm. So we'll hit a quick commercial break. We'll be back and we'll talk about our last topic. So we're gonna move on and talk about the number one league in the sport right now, the IFL. We're going to start with game picks, if that's cool, and then we're gonna talk about the big move at the end. Because I know you have a lot to say, and I have a lot to say too. So our first game of the week is Quad Cities at Indy tonight. Quad Cities is number one in the conference, and traveling to Indy. Indy has a home game. We should have a correspondent on ground for that one. So talk about this game, TJ. Who you got, and what's your final score prediction?
Well, Fisher's Freight they're a good team. They're a good team, especially for a first year expansion. But I see the way Quad City's rolling right now. I see them going in and coming out with a victory. Fisher Freight at times has had trouble scoring on offense, so I just see Quad City's offense outlasting them. I see Quad City winning probably like 48 to 35, 48 to 38, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing more to say. Yeah, 48 to 35. I think it's a fair score for sure. That was a good call. So Iowa at Jacksonville was our next game. Iowa, we can say maybe they're on a little bit of an up and up after destroying Fishers by 38 points. And they travel to Jacksonville, who's on a steady decline. Let's talk about these two teams. Who you got winning the game, and what's your final score prediction?
Yeah, at home, I see Jacksonville getting off the snide. I see their defense acting beastly and keeping them in the game like they did the first couple weeks of the season. It's just I do like Iowa on the up and up, but I just got to go with Jacksonville because they're at home and they're looking. Coach Gibson, they're going to be ready to roll. They're going to be ready to start another winning streak. I see them winning a slightly lower scoring affair, probably like 35 to 27, 35-24, something like that.
Yeah, I'll go, let's say, 38 to 21. I think, Iowa, at the end of the day, they still have a rookie, a quarterback with James Cahoon, and I think, him playing in that environment. I think Malik Jones should be playing this game fully healthy, and, he's the best team in the IFL. So that's just down the whole. That's going to be a fun matchup, though, him and Quan Williams for Iowa, Quan Williams versus Jacksonville, Malik Jones. Those are two high-level players going against each other, so I'm excited for that. But I like Jacksonville to win this game. Our next game is Tulsa and Green Bay. Green Bay is traveling to Tulsa after a lucky win last week. So we'll talk about this game. Who do you got winning, and what's your score?
Yeah, man, it's hard to put a thumb on Green Bay. But I see them rolling in and coming out with a victory again. I see them not necessarily shutting down Tulsa, but definitely controlling the flow. I see it honestly coming down to the final maybe couple drives of the game. Definitely going in, to the final minutes of the fourth quarter. That's for sure. I see Green Bay winning, like 44, 45 to 38. Something like that.
I agree. Yeah, actually, I'm going to pick Tulsa to win this game. I think TJ Edwards is going to run all over that defense. That defense is nothing special for Green Bay. I'm just going to be honest. I think they're trash, to be honest. But I think Tulsa's going to run all over that defense for dinner, and I think it's going to be a shootout. But I like Tulsa to win 47 to 42. Arizona at Tucson. I know you're a huge Coach Billy Back supporter. You're a Coach Billy Back fanboy. I'm a huge fan of him too. I know he's 3-17 in his last 20. It's been a rough stretch for him. Do you think he can finally get over the hump and beat Arizona?
No. I see. It's really unfortunate, because Billy Back, man, he's one of the greats of all time, but he just can't seem to figure it out in Tucson, man. But I see them. They just can't put a complete game together, in my own opinion. They seem to do well coming out, to start off the game and coming out of half, the scripted offensive drives, if you will. But other than that, it's kind of hit or miss. They obviously in arena and indoor, you go for it a lot on fourth down. They are having trouble converting those to keep drives alive as well. I see Arizona. It's as of right now, it's an 11.5 point spread. I see Arizona covering that. I see them probably winning, 45 to 28, 45 to 31, something like that. It's just the Sugar Skulls. They're getting they're getting slowly but surely better. It seems they keep addressing things, but I just don't think they're on Arizona's level as of right now.
Oh yeah, they're about to lose the next 3 games. Just to be honest, that offense is I like Jorge. I like Jorge from his time with San Diego. I think he's a fine quarterback, but I just think that whole team. I mean, the receiver they got out there, they just don't have the pieces to win. And then the running back, Sap Lynch, how they use him, and it just. I think they should try to go and get Troy Evans. I know he's on the free agent market. I think that would be really good for them to have a vet other slot. And I think they're only at 4 vets on the team, so that wouldn't put them over the vet rule at all. So that might be a nice move to bring him in. But yeah, I think they just gotta make some moves on the receiver position, add some good receivers. But yeah, no, Arizona winning this game by like 20. I want Arizona to put them in the coffin. Not too much, and then next week they can really feel what pain really feels like. So I'm excited. But yeah, no, Tucson is losing by like 30. Northern Arizona is traveling to the Vegas Nighthawks. It's been a little bit of a rough stretch for my boy Ron James down there in Northern Arizona. Obviously, they're 0-4. CJ Flower, turnover machine. You can tell he's really struggling to get adjusted to the indoor game. But Vegas. Let's talk about the quarterback change in Vegas, and then I want to get your thoughts on the game, obviously. But Jaden Delora started over what looked to be a healthy Jerome Johnson. Do you think that's a permanent move? And if that is, could we see Jerome looking for other opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I if he comes in and plays well tonight, I could definitely see it being a permanent thing. They got to get something going because coming off of a playoff berth last season, expectations were super high for Vegas this year, and they have just obviously been lackluster. Offensive struggles pretty much at the top. They've been in a situation where they could have won 2 more games this year if their offense was able to produce at the end. So I do see, though, however, Vegas handling Northern Arizona. Right now, again, they're 10.5 point favorites, but I see them. I see it being a little bit closer, just because I just assume even with the quarterback change, the offense is still might stumble a little bit, but I see them beating Northern Arizona probably like somewhere around like 38 to 28, 42 to 28, something like that.
Yeah, that corner for Vegas, number 24, I think his name is Spreewell. He's really good. Like, I was really impressed with him. He held his own against Glenn Gibbons. I thought he played a really good game against San Antonio. But yeah, no, I think I like Vegas to win by like 20. I think they win like 45 to, let's say, 25. And then our final game of the weekend is San Diego at Bay Area. Obviously, San Diego coming off a nice win against Tucson. They played a really good game. I was really impressed. But Bay Area, I mean, they're just a brick wall on defense. Rob Keefe is doing what Rob Keefe does the best. But let's talk about this game. What do you think about San Diego and Bay Area tonight?
I like both these teams, man. They're San Diego Strike Force. They're awesome. I mean, obviously, our background's their field. They just have a really nice setup. They're a really great team. But if there's one thing watching arena football for majority of my life, it is do not go against Rob Keefe. the guy is just a proven winner and champion. So, I think Bay Area is going to get the job done. I see this one being possibly the game of the week. It should be a good one down to the end. I'm going to pick Bay Area coming out on top at home, though. 51-45.
Yeah, I like them by 2 scores, actually. I like them 51-34. No. 2 scores. Because I think it's going to be I like their defense. I think Nate Davis gets stops twice. So, I want to end the show by talking about a move, that was made this week. And I know you're very passionate. You had a couple things to say in our little group that we got over there. But I'm gonna let you say what you need to say, and then I'm gonna say what I need to say. My Massachusetts Pirates, we made a little bit of a move. We have a new leader under the helm. TJ, I want to get your thoughts on this, and then I'll close out the show by giving my thoughts.
It was a little surprising, although it probably shouldn't be because, Massachusetts seems to cycle through players and coaches a lot. But, it's kind of like Omaha, doing what they did with Coach Negron. They saw, a weak spot and they decided to change it. It's just obviously a little shocking when it happens to be your head coach or interim, head coach, whichever, you prefer. But we'll see how it goes. Other than that, hey man, good luck. I wish you luck. As a Pirates fan, they should be on the up and up, but we'll see.
So, I know I want to start out by saying, I know how this looks. I know how this looks on the outside looking at it, right? I know what people are going to say. I know what, it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I hear all the noise. and I think if it was another team, I would say the same thing. But, I know there's a culture and there's a standard that is set here in Massachusetts, right? We're not Quad Cities, right? Quad Cities is going to have a great regular season. They're going to throw a little float parade for Corey Ross. Oh my God, he's so great. Daquan Neal, that defense, and they're about to get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, right? That's the same thing we talked about with Vegas. They threw Mike Davis a parade around Vegas, Fifth Avenue. Oh my God, he's amazing. Jerome's amazing. With Jerome played great. That team played great. These teams, they play for a regular season. They play for the regular season, man. They want to dominate the regular season, and then they don't play for August, right? They go to Cancun in August. For us, man, we're here to play in August. I want to win out in the regular season. Obviously, I want to win. I want to see my team win. I want to see my team be dominant. But I want the move we made because we're making dumb mistakes and we're losing games. So I'm going to take you back. First game, we turned over Jacksonville 5 times. Caleb Barker fumbled. We picked him off 3 times, and we got a turnover, a stop on downs, right? And we lost the game by 21. If you're stopping a team 5 times and you're losing by 21, there's an inherent problem. So next week, we come back, we lose to Quad Cities. First drive of the game, we stop Quad Cities. We stopped Quad Cities 4 times, right? And we lose by 4 points, right? And we missed the field goal. We missed 4 extra points, right? Next week, we played a great game against Indy. But even Indy, we let out 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns, right? 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns. And then we got stopped twice. So we got stopped 5 times, and we won by 3. So the outcome of the game, if Indy had a better quarterback back there, what could have happened, right? Let's just be real. Jacksonville, we played a perfect game. I think all around we played a perfect game. And I know everyone can say, oh, well, there's no such thing as playing perfect game. We played a perfect game. We went down and we executed on all cylinders. We did get stopped once. We could have had a little bit better clock management. And then we come home and we lose a disgusting game. We should not have lost that game to Green Bay. We got stopped twice inside the 10-yard line. And so all this stuff about, they're going to hear all these people like my boy Trey, off the wall. Like all these people are gonna say, "Oh my God, Green Bay is amazing. Corey Robertson, he's clutch." No, he's not. We shot ourselves in the foot twice, and so we should have won that game. We lost by 12. We get stopped 2 times. So I made comments about Coach Manas in the past. We've had him on the show. He's our leader, right? And I stand by that. Any decision the organization makes, I'm gonna stand by because I know Jawad is someone people don't understand. Jawad is the best. Jawad is the best scout in the industry. I love my guy. I love Ben McCoy. I love everyone, but Jawad is the best scout in the industry. Jawad knows what to do. Jawad is going to make every move in order to be successful. That's why I'm a dedicated Pirates fan. I'll always be a Pirates fan. And we want to make moves that are in the best interest of our franchise going forward. Coach Griggs is an incredible coach. He's going to be a name that we think about in 10 years. He's going to be a very successful head coach. But he's young right now. He's young and raw, right? Give him like 5 years and watch. He's going to take off. He's going to be really good. But, don't sleep, man. We got Manas coming in. I know, people can say what they want. Manas has won 46-14, 3-time champion, right? And so, anyone who wants to question and say the Pirates do this, the Pirates do that, we've been in the IFL for 4 years. We've been to the playoffs all 4 times. We won the Eastern Conference twice, and we won 1 championship. I can't think of, I don't know what the last team to win out of the East was to win a championship or go to the championship. I think it was us. So I don't want to hear any talk about, oh my God, they're dirty, they're this, they're that. They don't know how to operate. Like, we win. While you sit on the couch and watch us, we win. And I know we've lost in the playoffs, but this move was made again for August. If we're making mistakes now, what's going to happen in August? We don't want to be a home playoff game against Jacksonville, 4th and 2, and we're committing an unnecessary penalty, and then it's 4th and 12, right? We need to execute at a high level because we have all the talent. Coach Manas is getting the keys to a Ferrari. He has everything. He's not coming into an Iowa. He's not coming into he's not coming into Iowa. He's not coming into anywhere. He's coming into a Massachusetts where he has a great defense. That defense is established. We got dogs on the defense. We got dogs on the offense. We just need to put the pieces together. We need a little bit of discipline, and we'll be fine. So I'm really excited by this move. I think it speaks to how much management is committed to winning, and I'm so thankful for that. So everyone, man, just watch. We're about to go on a big run, and we're about to win the championship. So, TJ, appreciate you joining me this morning. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Always appreciate the support. And I want to highlight this comment. So this is the CEO of the Nashville Cats. I watched an interview he did last night while I was eating my mango sticky rice, and this is a great interview. You can tell they got good leadership down there in Nashville. He's the perfect person for the job. He has previous experience with the Music City team that was in the Western Michigan League, the GLAFA, and now he's the CEO of Nashville Cats. And you can tell this guy is very he's very good. A guy like Bobby is the type of people we need in the industry. So I have a lot of respect for what he's doing, and he also tuned in right here. So yeah, really happy for Nashville. My guy Coach AP, OC, he comes from up here in Mass. Maybe the departure was not how I intended it to be, but I'm still happy for him to have success in Nashville. But yeah, no, again, I'll say this one last time. Coach Griggs, he got thrown into being a head coach last minute, right? Coach Amir left, Coach AP left, and so it's now he's thrown in to the fire, and he did everything he could, and I'm just really thankful for him. But now we got Coach Manas. We're ready to win, ready to roll. TJ, appreciate you joining me this morning. I encourage everyone to tune in tonight. We got a lot of good games around the industry, and we'll see you next week. We got some guests coming on next week, so it'll be a good episode.